Okay, good.
This week's assignment I felt a little bit difficult for me to understand, but I tried my best to, you know, try to make something out of it. So this assignment, okay, so I'm thinking like we have to like um, talk about the diversity and equity and how we can incorporate that when we are giving a training to the direct care staff, right? So for this assignment, let's see. So it says a reflection, provide a brief discussion about your comfort in discussing SJDI as a group. All members should identify at least one insight they learned from the conversation. Consider using the poll options in June. So I'm thinking of maybe after we are done discussing everything, then maybe we can come back to this one later on. And so the community that we are working on for our team uh, is Wheaton, Maryland, right? And I pulled out some data. So Wheaton, Maryland is so the highest, the it's a Hispanic population is the highest, is 44 percentage.
Mhm.
Then it's uh, like Black and African, then white and Asian. So it's all mixed race population. It's very diverse community, and the and the language spoken is language other than English spoken at home is 60%. So it's very diverse in the language people speak in there, and also the education level is high school graduate or higher is 80%, and bachelor's degree or higher is just 36%. And like economic level is also yeah I know, so people are so 10% of people are living under poverty. So I think this population we are working on is diverse community with very and middle class and poor people living in poverty, right? So we have to think about that when we are creating the training. And so this is what we are working with. And
Mm.
so you'll begin by getting to know the diversity of the community. So I think we check that out, right? How diverse it is. And using your community description, describe the client, your hypothetical agency we're gonna serve. So I was thinking like maybe a clinic where we provide
Mm.
in-home services. How about what do you guys think?
I think that's good. Or even just like, I don't have a ton. Okay, so full disclosure, I don't have a ton of experience. I actually don't have any experience working in home. I've only ever worked in a clinic. I've done that for about 5 years. And so, like, for me, what I bring to the table, I think it would be good for me to know in home care. But to bring to the table, I could bring a lot more, I think, to a clinic because I have definitely not these percentages in my area as far as like other languages and things like that. But I have had to navigate that a few times. I've worked with immigrants, um, actually refugees. I've worked with, yeah. So I've worked with a lot of a little bit of a diverse communities. I have some things for in clinic work, um, but that's just my perspective. I'm like I said, I'm willing to learn too. So if you guys all have in home care, like I'm here to learn too.
Yeah, I only have experience with in-home care. That's why I bring that up. But
That's fair. That's
yeah.
1,000%. See, this is good though.
Mhm. So anybody else have any idea of what we should choose?
I think we chose this in our other meeting.
Mm.
Yeah, like our first meeting, I think it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Okay, yeah. I think we chose clinics, right?
Did we?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
All right, so that should okay. And so describe the range of treatment with an effort at using the social model of disability reframe what you have historically described as problem behavior. So yeah, what are the ages? So ages, it think children, right? Do you have any age range? Did we select any age range before?
Yeah, I'm working in the clinic and also at home, home service. In the clinic, I'm right now I'm working for two kids. I think age all around between 4 to 5,
Mhm.
and one kid at home, he is 4 years old, so the range, and as you mentioned, the community in Maryland pretty diverse. The two kids are working. I think one is African American, another is Spanish speaking, and the third one's Asian actually.
Mm.
They're
You're
coming
very
from,
diverse. That's
yeah,
cool.
the mother coming from Philippines, I think.
Mm,
Yeah, very diverse.
yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, should we just do age range like what?
We didn't, okay, so we didn't choose what we're, that's one thing. Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting back on track. We didn't choose an age though. We just like chose a setting, right?
Yeah, we chose a setting, and I think for this assignment, I think
That's when we identify the,
yeah.
gotcha. Okay. So, like I said, I'm just gonna speak from experience. I've worked from 22 months up to 15. Those have been my age ranges. That's typical for our clinic because it's all like school readiness and things like that. We're really moving towards early intervention. So what works for
I'm a
littles
pretty
doesn't always work for olders.
I was gonna say the clinic
Yeah.
I worked at was mostly like I did mostly early intervention. So that would be what I was most comfortable with. I did work with like the older kids sometimes, but it was more like when a member of that team was off, they would pull from the EI team to go over.
Yeah, that's kind of how when I first started it was, and now I actually have helped open another center, which was a little bit more diverse in age. But then this center I'm at now was the older like adolescent center
Mhm.
for later learners, and then we're just seeing a lot more. So we maybe could look into that too. I don't know if that would be like substantial information to say like what, I don't know if we would be able to find it either, but primarily we're getting kids waitlisted. We have like a 6-month wait list even to enter our services. And just most of the students we're seeing now, or the clients we're seeing now, are those early intervention ages. Because if you think about it, ABA wasn't at least in my area, was not accessible 12
Mhm.
years ago. You know what I mean? And so, but we've worked through all those kids essentially that are in our area typically, or that have like, and if they grew up in this area, they had more likelihood to have had services at an earlier age now, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah, I think
we have
that's
like 25 centers now.
Yeah, that's mostly the same age range that I worked with. I had one job where I worked with like older adults, but I don't think we probably won't use that because my oldest adult that I worked with was 83.
Hmm,
So I don't think anybody else probably has that
not me.
like level because that was like the first time it ever happened with me.
Hmm,
So I think that we're probably good with that like younger age range. That seems to be where more ABA services fall under, like you said, Cass.
What do you think? I should probably know the answer to this, but what is considered like early intervention? I guess, Nicole, I know you work with them. What ages do you work with right now? If you're strictly like a part of like EI team, EI team, what is
So
that?
it goes up to 9. They
Okay,
like
I
it goes
would've-
up till 8, then they try like to start transitioning to the older at 9, but
Mhm.
sometimes so yeah, about
Okay.
like you're saying 22 months to about 9.
That's typically okay. That's what it used to be for me, but our
Mhm.
center has expanded our centers and companies expanded so much. Yeah. Okay. So we can go like earliest diagnosis to what, let's say like 18 months to
9.
babies now, but 18 months until 9.
Yeah, I think that's
What we're all comfortable with. Okay. Cool. Let me write this
so,
down.
describe the range of this trend with an effort to using the social model of disability to reform. So do you have anything about what kind of like strength they might have or what kind of problem behavior they might have?
So I did have a question. So like when you found all that like demographic information, I know one of the things like up in, I don't know if it was 2 or 3, said it wanted to know about like abuse in homes and like the death rate and all that stuff. Do we have to know that stuff? Because I think one of these questions asks like what they're
Right.
facing that gets them to the services with like their problem behaviors and stuff, like farther on down. Mhm. Yeah, like when it says, what is the rate of abuse or death? Do we need to know that, like to know, like to add more to it or no?
Yeah, I think that like knowing this would be better, right? To understand what the children are facing. That way we know like how like when we are making up a training, we have to consider that as well, because that's gonna also affect on the intervention that we put in place. So
Well, I know we might have to make some assumptions, but I live in South Bend, Indiana. And there is a big, so we can look up crime rate or like abuse rates. We could look up those, but like that's a big thing that people press when I moved from a really small town up here. They're like, oh, that's as bad as like Chicago,
Yeah.
and it's like a mini Chicago. I was like, it's not really. I mean, it is. Like I live technically in the ghetto. Like I live on the west side. Like I live in like the bad area, and like yeah, it's like the way that people conduct themselves much differently as parents. Like that's, I think, absolutely a massive factor on like how we discern like programming for our clients. Because a lot of my clients actually do come from South Bend, but even though my center is a town over, but like we have to consider like in their household, it is like acceptable for
Yeah.
them to get like spankings or
Yeah.
those sort of things. Now, is it okay? No, but like, so I feel like it's definitely something that we should at least look at or address. Like if it's like, oh, it's a small town, there's not much, you know what I mean? There's not many reported like
Right.
instances of abuse, and like we can just bypass it sort of, but it is definitely, I think if it is an issue, is something we should address.
Okay, and I was gonna say, I know like ours is like that too, sort of where I live. And some of the like problem behaviors that we see like have to do with the diagnosis, but also are behaviors they see at home and are learned.
Yeah.
So that's why I wondered too.
Yes, I think that's
I
a
also-
good point. Good catch.
Oh, sorry. So I also agree with that too. When I worked in the school system, I worked at 2 different programs, and one was a city school and one was like a very rural school. And it was very interesting to me, the difference between like verbal aggression, just because people, talk different. Like you could say something in a way and like one community perceives it as threatening and aggressive. And in another way, it's not, it's just considered talking, So I feel like that is also important when we're looking at like problem behaviors, like what is, accepted by the community.
Yeah.
That's a really great point. And I worked in Alabama for a couple years, and it was a predominantly African American center. And most of the time, like we had a lot of workers who were African American as well. So it kind of balanced out a bit because they knew how to be culturally sensitive to all of our clients, as well as they like taught me certain things that are accepted and not accepted. And one of the big things was, like you said, spanking was a huge thing there. And so like sometimes if we would report that they said a bad word or something like that, it was immediately like, oh, how many spankings should I give them? And to me, that was very much like, whoa,
Oh, that's not
like what do you mean?
Yeah.
But that's how their culture is down there.
Yeah.
That's something that they do multiple times, and that's something that the kids like know. And I had a client ask me before when he got aggressive, and then he was like, are you gonna spank me? And I was like, oh, nope, that's we're good. So I think you're right. I think that is something that we should really take into consideration, because for me that was alarming, because that I grew up in the North, and there it's more taboo. And I grew up in a small town, so I grew up in a rural small town, so it wasn't it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And then when I was down south, that was their form of punishment, no matter the ethnicity at all.
Yeah.
So I definitely think we need to take that into consideration when we do this.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so where are we at? What else do we need? And yeah, what else do we need?
Okay, so
I'll say, was it the behaviors, like what behaviors our kids have?
yeah. So like thinking about all those the thing you brought up about the racial abuse rate, and then thinking about that, and then coming up with how culturally sensitive we have to be when we are talking with the clients or talking with the clients' parents, right? And next thing is so we have to assume that the direct care staff that work at our hypothetical agencies is a reflection of the community. So it says to assume that they have high school degrees and hold no certifications, and they do not have any previous experience in ABA, but have employed in fast food or clothing store companies. So when we provide the training to direct care staff with less experience in ABA, what kind of things you think like we should consider when providing the like training to them?
I think this is when it's really important to not use, just come at them with jargon. Yeah.
Yes.
Try to be as descriptive as possible, like trying to give maybe lots of examples.
I agree.
Yes.
I think it needs to be like clear and concise as well. Like I have an issue with being wordy, big surprise. And I think the best thing I have done, it's like training a parent who has no experience, right? Like I think that's the kind of the lens we have to kind of look through, is like, okay, we're going to put this in as simple terms as possible, in terms that you understand, and avoid ones that maybe you think you understand but don't apply to ABA. You know what I mean? Like punishment and things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, contradicting what like they already think when they hear those words. Yeah. I feel like I have an issue where, like, since we've all been talking ABA terms for so long now, I don't want to come across condescending. Like,
yes, that's happened.
But
yes,
but at the same time, it's like these people might not know, but I don't want to like dumb it down too much, and then they're like, do you think I'm stupid? So yeah, I have issues with that. So
same.
I feel like this is our like card or licensure to say dumb it down as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's what this
Yeah.
whole part is.
Yeah. And I feel like that, it's better to be safe than sorry in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's just something that I personally have to get over, like being afraid of that.
Yeah. Well, but that's, I mean, it's fair. It's also really hard to like really understand something and all of the nuances within it, and like picking and choosing what is the dumbed down version of that without sounding like
Yes.
dumbing it down. I get that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I was reading one of the the paper for this assignment, and it was talking about like like rather than assuming like what they know and what they do not know, like it's better to ask like open-ended questions
Mm,
to understand that where they are at, and going from there. That would be one way of not being biased.
that's a really good suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So this is a paper format, correct?
I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah,
Or can we just
I
answer?
believe so.
Okay.
'Cause I know somewhere it says, 3 to 6 pages.
Single spaced or whatever. Yeah.
Cool.
center, right? I mean, it's a clinic. We already chose that, and understanding a staff member identify are directly connected to number of variables that are. So the variables, I think the things that we need to consider are in the checklist over here. We can. So it talks about like we have to think about you know what, I'm going all over. Let's see.
You're doing great.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let's just go over this and then maybe we can go to the checklist. But yeah, it does say that the variable is in the checklist, so we can go over that in some time. First, let's see. For how well you create an environment in which they will experience training is connected to their identities. Perhaps they come from a community that expresses respect by not making eye contact. And yeah, so about the respect thing, I mean, everybody has different way of showing respect. For us, for me, the community I come from, like whoever like visits, you know, like eye contact is necessary, but as like I work in home settings, so it's mostly when respect is about when somebody comes into your home, like providing like giving them food is one of the biggest you know thing of like showing respect. So I come from Nepalese community, and that's the biggest thing. Like if you don't offer any food to them, it's so rude. So that's the one thing. And do you guys have anything about to share about respect or any cultural thing that you think is important to understand when
See, now I'm thinking in home too. I'm like, well, when I walk into somebody else's home, like as a guest, I take off my shoes, like, or I ask, like, would you like me to take my shoes off? That's like anytime we have, because I also do like at home visits, like just with like parent meetings essentially, and like seeing the client in their natural environment. Wow, are they so different sometimes? But that's always one of the first things, like, would you like me to take my shoes off? And they'll let me know. Or do you mind if I sit down with you? Like those sort of things. And so before I ever, it's kind of like you had said, before I ever made an assumption about like them or what they believe or what they think, I just ask first, like, hey, we're about to address this. What are kind of those things for you guys that are important to you? Like, I mean, thinking in clinic now, like things like masturbation. We had a client that was publicly masturbating or attempting to publicly masturbate. She wanted us to come in the room while she masturbated. And so we, first, like we asked her mom, like, what would you like us to do? She's like, well, stop her from doing it. We're like, okay. She's also really strong and was really aggressive, like just ripped so many hairs out of my head. And she basically, I was like, well, if we send in therapists in there to block her from doing that, she will still wrestle to continue to do it while they're trying to hold her back. That is not in like comfortable for our therapists. They don't feel, they feel like that's also a violation not only of her, but also a violation of their space. So like that was something that was really difficult to navigate because they wanted us to reprimand her for something that like we couldn't physically stop her from doing. And also she was alone in a room. In her eyes, that is privacy. So that's kind of that was a really difficult thing, I think, too, and a really sensitive subject. So I can't think of any like triggers beyond that because it's always been like very strange things. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just always come down to like just asking before shows us respect.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
for,
definitely something we can cook on, I think.
yeah, for the clinic I'm right now working, I think the staff member, they're all very kind, eye contact and say each other friendly. I don't think there is problem for the center.
Another thing is like showing respect for like cultures, cultural religion sort of things, or like if there's like a holiday that I might assume that everyone in the center, all of the clients would participate in. It doesn't necessarily like, again, another way of showing respect is like being conscious of those things and still allowing them the same amount of reinforcement, even though they like that may not be. So like if there's a holiday party that they can't, I guess, participate in, we try to find a way to help them participate without it being centered around the holiday itself for them. So if like other kids are getting to play a game, or we'll incorporate games that have nothing to do with the holiday so that the client can still participate and get like, you know, goodies or whatever, just for the sake of like celebrating with their friends rather than celebrating for the holiday.
I know I work
I
in
think
a
that's a
school
great
and like, yeah, Christmas is like a big one, but sometimes we'll do like winter instead of Christmas because not
Yeah.
everybody celebrates Christmas, but everybody can celebrate winter. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think another thing that we could maybe apply to this is, since we're doing like a training, I know a lot of companies will provide lunch for staff that are training. So one time when I was working at a like a day center, like a day program for adults, they had lunch for all of the clients, and one of the girls couldn't eat beef and because of religion, and that's all there was, and it was not thought about. It was like a horror. I felt so bad. It was horrible. But so I feel like, you know, taking that into consideration, if our training is going to provide lunch for the staff members, then, you know, just making sure to include all of those dietary things might be a good idea.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And I feel like if the staff is reflected of the community, right? As long as we are conscientious when it comes to like deciding what intervention is like problematic or not problematic, if we're being conscientious of the culture that we're addressing with our clients, then we should, by proxy, be addressing the culture as far as like what we choose in intervention methods. Does that make sense? Like we'll be addressing both essentially.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And also like maybe we can think about family dynamics, like just yesterday, like I have a client who also has a younger sister who is just 18 months old, and I just started working there with that client like not even a month ago, and I was saying and his mom puts all his toys in the closet and all the way up, and he cannot even reach it. And when I go there, then I have to like during the session like pulling those toys out, and it takes time, and as well as by the time he keeps screaming, so I asked mom if she can like bring out all the toys out, and so that it's easier for me while running the sessions. And she told me that, oh, she has an 18-month-old child, and if she puts all the toys out, then she's gonna put everything in the mouth. So that's why she's concerned about that. So when I was doing this assignment, I thought about it, and maybe I should not have asked that, or I should have, like, before starting the session, I could have just pulled all the toys out, put it on a side, and after the session is done, I can put it back, instead of asking mom to like bring it out everything before. So yeah, I think those things also maybe we can consider when planning out the interventions.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So yeah, let's go over this one. I think this has more information here. So did we all read? So have we all read and prepared for this meeting as described in this assignment? So, so what kind of like ethics code do you think it's relevant to this assignment?
Let me look. Hold on. I have it. I know it, but I don't know it by heart. I can find it though. Just give me a second. Yes, why wouldn't you print the task list?
I was gonna say, I love that you had it like right there. Like you were like, I'll just go, give me like 2 seconds. Cause I'm like, I have to Google that. And yeah.
Oh, no, I got you. Just a second, I'm doing. I can't find it now. Hold on. Everyone's got it. Not open file. Legal right. Right. Sorry, I'm in like the A, B's, and C's. Sorry, my eyes had stuck.
You're good. At least you had it.
All right.
I totally. Oh, sorry.
You're good. Go ahead.
I totally just started reading further into the checklist, and then it says we have avoided bias and derogatory language. Example: dumbing down material.
That's what I just told my husband.
Oh,
I
what if I air coded it?
I apologize, and I didn't mean it that way. I almost said it more of like a euphemism than.
Yes.
But I should. But
right.
I should have been. I should have been more, conscious of the word choices. So I really do apologize.
I'm with you because I said it too. So I'm with. I said it too. I'm not.
I say it. Yeah. So don't even worry about
That's why this is a good class, because we are learning.
Yeah.
Sure. Look at us
What
go.
not to say.
So proud of us. I think I went too far.
I'm also looking at these ethics. Like I think I have pulled it out somewhere. Yeah.
That's kind of it. No, it's not right.
Um,
I would say behavior 4.07, which is environmental conditions that interfere with implementation.
Yeah, 4.07, incorporating and addressing diversity, right?
Yeah, I think so. Hold on. Let me just make sure I didn't go too far.
Mm-hmm.
and
No. I almost said promoting an ethical culture, which is 7.01, but I don't think that's right.
Then I saw where I communicating about services. I think it talked about like and also like identifying stakeholders, like who we are working with, right, to figure out
Mm-hmm.
to know their culture and yeah, I think those are the one. I think we can look it over.
And maybe like for one of the like responsibilities, we could have somebody like compile a list.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be
About this one, like I'm not sure like how should we how the content of the training would need to be developed.
I think since we're doing the visuals, I think this is just like a good time to make sure that if we're using visuals with people, that those people look like they reflect the community. So, you know, they're different races and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that people can see themselves in the training materials.
Yeah, 1.07, cultural responsive and diversity. Maybe you can include that code too. 1.07.
Have we considered that respect is delivered differently across different communities? We discussed about that. And next one is, have we considered the role of cultural humility in how trainings are developed and delivered? I think so have we talked about this?
Of cultural sensitivity. Yeah, I think about how trainings are developed and delivered. I think when we talked about just making sure we're asking people like what they're comfortable with, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe what they're meaning is like, is there is there a step? Excuse me. Sorry. Is there a step by step? So like, yeah, we have to ask those questions first before we can make those decisions on what's like I'm not of any other culture than my own, right? And if we're dealing with multiple different cultures, what we're gonna have to do is essentially not take a poll, but ask these open-ended questions and to everyone in order to come to a compromise or a middle ground that is respectful to each of those cultures, right? Because it seems like we have like we have a good diverse community, primarily Hispanic, but like, yeah.
Okay, so
But yeah, is there a step-by-step essentially?
Yeah, and the role of cultural sensitivity in how training, I think these two look like
They
similar.
kind of go together. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
are we like humble enough? Like we're not ethnocentric. Like, are we kind of at least opening that door? I think that's where that humility comes in. Like, are we opening that door at all during like the
Yeah.
development of these trainings? And then how are we being culturally sensitive when we open that door?
Right. Like, are we even acknowledging that people are different than us?
Yeah. Oh, check. We did that all right. See?
And the role of representation in material, I think when we are developing the materials, like we put like pictures of all pictures for all different races. I think we already talked about that, right?
Yeah.
And have we addressed ableism and our clients' role in selection of intervention? I think we definitely have to like collaborate with clients and clients' family to come up with the interventions. Right, one of the clients that I worked with, like her mom, like we were developing the personal questions, and her mom wanted to not just basic questions like what's your name, what's your age. She also wanted her to know their phone numbers and know where they work. And I think she felt that that was important for him to understand. So I think that's very important that we include the parents when developing the interventions, like coming up with the goals.
Is that asking like, are we giving choice in our interventions? Like it built in within our intervention, is there like a moment of choice? Like even the preference assessment, or like, I'm in the midst of doing this thing. It's called Ascent. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but basically our center is going to a place where like, well, if you don't want, you have to consent to treatment. And what that looks like for someone with ASD is different than like what consent truly is when you're of age. So like for a client who's underage and has to give some sort of consent, it's called assent. It's hard being old ABA, like old school, and then trying to make it, because I deal with a lot of kids that have refusals. They have refusal behavior. They just don't want to do it. No matter how motivated they are, just don't want to do it. And like I guess it'll depend on our problem behaviors, but like essentially like if you don't want to do it, you have to communicate functionally in whatever form that is for you that you are all done, or you are no thank you. And that's fine. You don't have to do it, but you do not receive the reinforcement that you would have gotten had you done it. So does that make sense? So like, okay, you don't want to brush or you don't want to tie your shoe, that's fine. But we agreed that you would get bubbles after you tied your shoe. And since you're not tying your shoe, no bubbles, not available. So that sort of thing. Is there in that, and just something to consider. I think that's where my brain goes with that. I could be way off on that. But is there some sort of like, kind of like the client themselves, like how do they play their role in what's like, their choice, I guess. But maybe that is just the preference assessment and it can be addressed that way.
Yeah. Okay.
Finding their motivation.
And discuss the value of measuring the care staff's effect while completing training. How do you think we can do that? I was thinking, like, does that mean like just checking on them, like taking their feedbacks?
Yeah, I feel like we could do like a report, like a survey, maybe.
Yes.
I like that.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if you don't get it, or there's holes in your training or whatever, or just didn't reach somebody, like obviously that's valuable to know, like if that affects the treatment integrity itself. So
what if we did like like as far as like almost like a pre-test and a post-test.
Oh, I love that. That's a good idea.
Ooh, that's really good. I like that.
That way it's you can see what they knew before, and then after the training you can see if it was effective or not.
Yeah.
The caregiver's view about their, oh no, how to measure social validity of the training.
I mean, I think that could be part of our survey. Like, do you find this helpful for your position? Or, does this, like, do they, I don't know, do they also think that this is an important intervention for the clinic or something?
Yeah. I think that's really, I think that's solid.
Okay. And the next one is having considered view about their role in service delivery. Some communities believe the providers are responsible for change, and others view themselves as having a primary role. Yeah, I think like we should definitely consider the caregivers as well, right? Because we have to work collaboratively. Then only like I think the interventions will work out more.
Yeah. But see the problem with this is, right, and I don't know how to predict something like this from an area I've never been. But like my problem is it's not really culturally necessarily. Some of it is, some of it's not. Culturally that like a parent just isn't invested. Like they just expect us to change and fix everything, and then they go home and they do the same stuff or allow that client. Like I have a client that deals with disrobing. He is at school. He is allowed to walk around his house naked, even if they have guests. That he happens to be Black. That would not fly in another client's household where her mom is like, she will always have a tank top underneath her shirt. She will have layers. No one will, you know what I mean? Like her dignity, like her body covered, like was a completely separate issue. So how do we predict?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, maybe it's just the considering again. Is this asking us to just open the door and say, I don't even know how to ask that. Are you invested? You know what I mean? Are you in this to win it or what? I don't know. Yeah, I guess I don't really know.
Yeah. I feel like I totally agree. Yeah, I've been around clients where their parents are literally like constantly talking to us, what can we do? What can we do? And then other ones where you try to do like parent training and they're like totally doing something else, like not even listening, they couldn't care less what you're saying. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, yeah, I guess just saying like, what do you think, or like, how do you envision this? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to have that conversation either.
I've never seen it being had. I've only seen us like try to encourage them to do more. I've definitely never seen us, even the ones that are extra, I haven't seen us being like, do less, Mm-hmm. So I don't, that one kind of, I think has stumped me. I bet you Michelle would know just because she's not here.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. If anybody was missing, I'd say it about you. Some of these questions feel like they're the same question over and over.
I agree. I was just thinking that. I was like, I feel like everything could be like covered in one, like, acknowledge everybody's different, find out what that person wants and prioritizes, and then adapt.
Yeah, that's true.
Agreed.
My client's mother give us a list. Do this one first, then do the next one, then do the third one, Yeah, right now we are doing taller training. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think the main thing is we should respect their choice and go with what they want.
Yeah, I'm like, you have to have a conversation like with the parents before you decide on a treatment. Typical. and then ask them basically these questions. And then I just feel like it's so hard to make an intervention. Like, how are we supposed to make an intervention over a class of people that we cannot interview?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just confused. Like, what's our loophole? What's our way around here? 17.
It's like 16 and 17 is so similar.
Yeah, well, 17 is kind of what I was trying to talk about with the ableism, kind of, and like how do they be a part of the development, or they have a say, kind of, it's kind of the same thing.
So 18 is how
18, we've pretty much been doing this whole time.
Yeah. So for this assignment, I'm a little confused. Like, how are we going to like come up with like subheadings? Like, it's so confusing for me. Do you guys have an idea? Like, I mean, I know we discussed so many all of these ideas, but how are we going to divide these? What I was thinking was like maybe creating like headings and answering all these questions, like let's say like cultural humility and cultural sensitivity. It all comes under like maybe like biases, and then we can answer these questions under that, and like
Formulate a paper from there.
another heading could be like working in collaboration, where like questions like considering caregivers view, and caregivers considering caregivers like 16 and the 17, it might come under like working in collaboration, right? That's what I'm thinking about this assignment. And also there's questions related to social validity. So all those questions can come under one one heading, right? So that's how I was thinking about doing this assignment. Do you guys have any idea, like other suggestions?
No, I think that's good if we just have kind of someone who takes these questions and splices them into like similar categories, since there are some. They might not be like right up against, there's a couple 9s and a couple 10s. Did anybody notice that?
Yeah.
Anyway, but we can basically splice them up into categories, even if they're not right next to each other, and then kind of fill in the information as we go, maybe in a Google Doc or something.
Yeah, I can do that. Like, I can create this the headings and put these questions or whatever.
Yeah. And then if we just put the headings and then we like list the questions, I feel like we'll address them all, and then we will be able to make our paper from that.
Yeah, okay, I will do that, and then I'll send it to all, and maybe you can pick and choose like one of the headings and write about it, right? Should we do like that? Does that sound good?
Yeah, I think that sounds good, because then it gets us all, it gives a pretty clear cut, hey, Michelle, pick up this doc, look at it, and then just kind of add in information like that you feel is like valuable into any section that you have like notes in, and we'll basically all take our notes in that spot, and then we'll be able to hopefully formulate, and we might have to split it up, because I don't want to put that on one person either, like formulate a paper out of that. But I feel like this group is really good about revising and being like, hey, I think this can move here. Hey, I think this will like sound fluid here.
I agree.
I don't think it'll actually be chaos, but here I am being naive, maybe. I don't think it'll be actual chaos if we're all like, all right, I'm going to finesse this, and we'll just all kind of stick our hands in it and go.
And then Mila, can you move up to the reflection part? So it look like the professor asking for, is it possible, is it like 8 question or 9 question from there. We start and pick something from checklist. Then so those like question 1, question 2, question 3.
I think all these questions are just all about how we can be culturally sensitive, culturally, talked about the like how we can be culturally, what's the term?
Oh, okay.
Like cultural humility, like those are the only, like just making us easier, like there are all the questions and we can just answer those. That will make us do, I don't know what I'm saying.
All right. Okay, so what I'm kind of reading, it says that we could take a poll, right, in Zoom. I've never done that, so that'd be cool. To survey or gather all of this information, or does it just mean like what we learned from the group or the conversation? Is it just that question that we're trying to pull?
Yeah, I think so.
I was saying that's how I took it.
Yeah.
Okay. So how can we, does anybody know how to do that?
No.
I have no
I don't.
idea.
Let me just,
What if we put it just like in a Google Docs?
yeah, that wouldn't matter. Cause I mean, I mean, if you wanted to work to find out what everybody said, but I don't really care if anybody knows. So I'll say it to your face.
Right?
No.
Yeah, let's just do that. Just put it in we'll put it in the Google Doc.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yep,
And then we
sounds
have
good
like
to
a
me.
little reflection section. And then, yeah, and then just as we're answering our questions or those questions within those headings that she's going to do, we'll just keep this stuff in mind, right? Like we don't have to necessarily like write it out, right?
It seems like we might have to. I don't know, because it just says for this assignment.
We could.
So I don't know if we have to do a write-up about that.
Maybe I don't know, excuse me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's our, some of our support, basically, like our references, right? Like we're going to support like, hey, we took this route because in Wheaton, like abuse, like death by abuse, rate of abuse is actually really high. And so we wanted to abstain from any like triggering or traumatic experiences as we try to, progress. I don't know.
Yeah, that's good. Mila, would you mind posting the link to that, like, demographic thing?
Census.gov. I snuck a peek while she had it up, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I wrote it
I'll
down.
post that. Yeah. And
Thank you.
yeah, and it says that all members should identify at least one insight they learned from the conversation. So I think each one of us have to write whatever we learned from our conversation.
Sure.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I'll just create those headings and send it out to you all then.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay,
so
great.
much.
Yeah, thank
When
you.
when is this due? When are we?
I know
due.
the whole thing's due Monday, but I don't know when like you want our parts due.
Yeah. When do we want to have that?
Saturday afternoon or evening, so that we have like time to look at on Sunday.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Good.
I will be semi-available. I have to work all day Saturday. So I will be semi-available. This is a very unusual thing. But so I'm gonna try to get my stuff done before then. So if I'm like, it seems like I'm ghosting, that's where I'm at.
Me too. Saturday, I just have like a day trip to New York, so like I
Okay.
might not reply, but I also might if I'm bored in New York.
I don't know. I'm
We'll see
like,
how it
I'm
goes.
really confused why you would say that. I'm over here like, I have a day in New York. Excuse me. I'm happy for you. I'm jealous. Okay, cool. All right. So we'll kind of Saturdays, like afternoonish is kind of where we're going to have we'll try to have all of our spots ironed out. That way we can develop our paper on Sunday.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Awesome.
Go team.
All right.
All right.
Woo!
Well,
See you guys
I need
next
I
week.
need a nap after that. Good night.
Yeah, right? Hi guys.
Hey.
That was a long
Bye,
one.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.